Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking about 8 cruises to avoid.
Yeah, we have done some of these, so we're going to help you not do the same mistake that we did. But these are 8 cruises to avoid, and you'll probably regret going on these and wish you'd booked something different. First one might surprise you because it's the type of cruise that we talk about going on a lot, and we do love it. But there's a good way to do it and a bad way. So it's a transatlantic repositioning cruise. But the one you want to avoid is from the U.S. to Europe. We definitely prefer coming from Europe back to the U.S. And there's a couple of reasons for that. The first reason is the time changes. When you're traveling from the U.S. to Europe, you're going to lose an hour every single day, and all your days are going to be 23-hour days. And it's going to be like, by the time you get to Europe, it's going to be a super big struggle to be up for breakfast. Because you feel like you can't catch up, and you're always just running out of time.
Exactly. It's just harder and harder. Like, you think to yourself, oh, it'll be better because I'll just lose my hours one at a time. Well, you know what? As it turns out, it's better to just rip the Band-Aid off and lose your 8 hours or whatever the difference is for where you're going off at once instead of slowly. Whereas when you're coming back, though, it's different because you get an hour, so you get more time to adjust each day, basically, as you're coming back towards the U.S.
Yeah, so it's much easier to come back. The other part of that is that you're probably going to have to fly one way or the other, and flights that go from the U.S. to Europe are always shorter than the other way around because of the way the wind works. So a flight, say for instance, from New York City to Madrid is only 7 hours and 15 minutes, but the return flight from Madrid to New York City is 8 hours and 45 minutes. So you're spending an hour and a half less on that plane if you're flying from the U.S. to Europe. So that's going to be the better way to go. Also, it's just a better way to do it time-wise. You're going to be able to adjust better if you do it that way. And I think we always try to cruise from Europe to the U.S.
Exactly. It makes more sense if you're doing it for the time adjustment as well.
The next one is kind of surprising too because we've done several of these, but we have, through doing them, seen the pitfalls of them. And that's an inaugural cruise.
Yes. Inaugural cruises, that sounds amazing. Like, oh, that sounds great. I'm going to be on the first one. I get to, that new room smell. I'll be the first one in the room. And that's all amazing. But there are some downsides also to inaugural cruises. One of the big things is that they can get canceled. And that actually just happened recently. One that a lot of people were getting ready to go on the inaugural sailing. And it was canceled because the ship is not going to be ready in time.
Yeah, that was the Sun Princess. It was supposed to go out in February, and it's not going to be ready. So they basically just said, all right, we're going to refund your money, and we'll give you $200 to change your plane ticket. And it's like, that doesn't even begin to cover the cost of what you've done to do this cruise, because you've rearranged your whole year, probably asked for time off. You've maybe prepaid some hotels. You've done a lot of stuff, and just the emotional planning of it too. And so an inaugural cruise is the most likely cruise to get canceled. On top of that, they're also easily the most expensive cruise. So you're paying more if you did the cruise a couple months later, you'd be paying a lot less. It could get canceled. And then on top of that, even, we have seen recently where the ship could also get done early. And when they get the ship done early, they've now started selling pre-inaugural cruises, and you're not even going to be the first one on the ship. So the inaugural cruise kind of has become somewhat meaningless. It's just a way for them to charge extra money. Because if they get that ship done early, they're going to sell cruises before yours. Mm-hmm. You'll not be on the inaugural cruise, but they're going to still call it the inaugural cruise just so you don't get a refund. But if the ship is done late, they're going to cancel your cruise. So for all those reasons, it's not really the best use of your money because it's more expensive than any other cruise.
Yeah.
All right, the next cruise to avoid is going to be spring break cruises.
Oof, boy. These can get crazy. And the ships, I feel like, are always jam packed. And there was one, we only did this one time with our kids when they were younger, like what, middle school or so. They really wanted to go on a cruise at spring break, and we were like, we knew what that was like, and we homeschooled our kids so we could go on a cruise whenever, which is usually what we did. But they really wanted to go at spring break, and whew, that was not a fun trip.
No,
for us.
When you see you see a lot of people putting out cruise videos of like people behaving badly on a cruise ship. That's when it's all happening on the spring break cruises.
Yeah.
So if you're not one of the people that wants to see that, that is one that you want to avoid. So the next set of cruises you want to avoid is hurricane season from Florida, because when you get in the Caribbean and the hurricanes start churning, it's going to put a pretty big damper on your cruise. So that's going to be basically August 15th to October 15th. Those are the dates to avoid. And there's a few reasons for it, because if a hurricane comes, first of all, you could miss a lot of your ports. You may still get to go on the cruise, but they're just going to sail around because they can't go, or they're going to change the port. So if it's a port that you really wanted to go to, they won't be going to that at all. But if the hurricane is supposed to hit Florida when you're about to go, they may just cancel the cruise altogether. And that's tougher to recover from, because again, kind of like the inaugural one, you've already paid your money, you've already arranged your schedule, asked for your time off. So those are the second most likely cruises to be canceled is hurricane season.
For sure. And then on top of that as well, this actually happened recently to some friends of ours. Went on a cruise. It was actually the early part of October, and a hurricane, it was during hurricane season. There was a hurricane that was imminent. So, of course, it was literally the worst as far as seasickness was concerned, because the waves were crazy. And then, unfortunately, they also got delayed for their arrival back into port in Florida by like 3 hours, and so many people missed their flights home. So that was a whole train wreck as well to boot on the back end of that cruise.
Yeah, cruises are almost never late, except for weather reasons like that. So the next cruises to avoid is an Alaska cruise at the very beginning or very end of the season. So that's going to be May or October, because it is cold. It's colder than you think. It won't always be cold. You could get lucky. We've been there before in May when it was fairly warm, but we've also been there in May when it was freezing. And not that much fun to be on a cruise when you're that cold.
No, and we had like a balcony too, so it was like we're literally just standing at the door looking, because it was way too cold to put on all the jackets and stuff, just, in your pajamas to go out there and enjoy. It's way better to just, wait a little bit into the season, and don't wait until the very last one as well, so that you also don't get that cold coming in too.
Also pertaining to Alaska cruises is cruises that go to the Gulf of Alaska are much more prone to waves and ocean sickness than cruises that just stay in the inside passage. So that's going to be cruises that go to Seward, Whittier, Anchorage. You're going to be going into the Gulf of Alaska and exposing yourself to more of those waves. So if you think that you're someone that might get seasick, stick with the cruises that only go up into the inside passage, and not the one-way ones up to Alaska that go all the way up and then come all the way back another week.
Yeah, exactly. That's definitely one that's on the no list for me with motion sickness.
Same kind of thing holds true for Pacific cruises, because they do have weather that impacts the Pacific Ocean. The worst time to do a Pacific cruise is going to be October to May, which is, basically winter. Going to be the worst weather, choppy seas, seasickness. So you do want to avoid that. If you're going to do a Pacific, trans-Pacific cruise, you want it to be in the summer.
That's right. And kind of the opposite then of the Europe one, with the losing and gaining of the hours, you definitely want to switch the direction then. So you will want to sail from the U.S. to Japan instead of from Japan to the U.S. because of the time changes.
Right, and that's going to be a long cruise likely, so it's even more important on that one because you are going to get well behind the clock. By the time about the 10th day, it's going to be like you're waking up for breakfast and it's dinner time. So it's tough to do it that way. And then this next cruise to avoid, if you're someone who is a parent and you want to get a break from your kids, go ahead and book a cruise that is child-free. You got a couple options for that. You can do Virgin, which is totally child-free, or Holland America and Princess. They're almost child-free.
That's right. Definitely, not just if you're a parent and you don't want to sail with your kid or you just want to break from kids, but also just like, people like us whose kids are older and we don't have grandkids and we just sometimes we just want to sail with just adults, then that's what we lean towards. And then, also people who are child free, or if you just don't like kids, then definitely lean towards, for sure, Virgin, because there will be no kids under 18. And then on Holland cruises, I think total we've ever run into maybe one or two kids and rarely even saw them. And then on Princess, I'm not sure I ever saw kids, maybe just heard them. So I don't even know how many there were because I don't remember hearing that much. So definitely lean towards something like that if you don't want children, sailing with children.
So we hope that you have an amazing cruise, and some of these cruises to avoid will help you to avoid some of the mistakes we've made, and a lot of other people have made, to avoid some of these pitfalls.
That's right. And if you have any others to add to the list, put those down in the comments as well. Or if you have questions for us, let us know. And we'll see you guys next time.